I got thinking about something other this week, and a lot of times we don't think that we can do a whole lot. Sometimes people even got in their mind that there's no way that God can use me, just little old me. And there's some people that, and it may get to the point, or may get as a church may get to the point to where they may feel like that God's just not going to use the church as He would someone else. A bigger church with more people, and I know that this church has struggled for some time, and as far as attendance and things of that nature, and a lot of churches have, and I hope and I pray that you, and I don't think you did. I know you didn't quit, but I'm glad that you didn't quit, and I hope you didn't get discouraged during those times. It's very easy to do. Very easy to get discouraged whenever it's just a handful, whenever it's just a remnant, okay? A remnant. Over there where I work and doing what I do as far as building houses and building cabinets, I've been building a set of cabinets this week for a home up in Moselle, for a family up there, and we use wood that sometimes can be pretty expensive. We don't necessarily use the mahogany for cabinets and stuff like that, but as far as trim, we might use it for trim and stuff like that. Things about mahogany is like it's probably $8-10 a foot. Okay, it's pretty expensive stuff. As we was cleaning out, had a young man cleaning out the shop the other day. He found a piece of mahogany about this long, not very long at all, just 2 or 3 foot long, and about this wide. And it was propped up there, and he said, "Well, what do you want to do with this piece of wood, this junk?" And we looked at it and said, "That's mahogany." And it was left over from a job that had been done many years ago. And they're still hanging on to it, to that remnant of that mahogany, because it had value to it. Even though it was just a short piece of wood, it had value to it. And, so we did not throw it away, of course, because it was probably about $15 for a little piece of wood. And so we hung on to it, and we waste a lot of things. While we're building cabinets and building houses, there's always scrap pieces of wood and this, that, and the other. We got buckets that we put the scraps of wood in and stuff like that, and it's the remnants. And many times we think of remnants as not being worth anything. You ladies that do any sewing and things of that nature, you take remnants from you. If you sew in a blanket or a quilt or a coat or a shirt or pants or whatever it is that you're making, those things that are left over after you make whatever it is you're making, those are the remnants. And generally speaking, the remnants doesn't get used for much. One of our shows that we like to watch is at Christmas time is that Coat of Many Colors. It's a Dolly Parton movie when she was a little girl and things of that nature. And you think about that coat that she had, that her mama made her, that had all the different colors, or a coat that was like Joseph's coat of many colors that Joseph had, and we read about in the Bible. Those coats were made from remnants and things that you may not think is very good, or that has very much value to it. But whenever you put those remnants together, it forms something special. It forms something great. It formed Joseph's coat. But we find in the Bible, in the book of Isaiah, and a couple of different other places there, where it talks about the remnant of Israel. A lot of times we think that remnants is just stuff that gets thrown away, stuff that has no value, and it gets discarded. It's of no use anymore. But we find that remnants can be very useful, as in the case of Joseph. And I know sometimes we feel like that we're the remnants a lot of times because we're not very many, or we're not this, or we're not that, or maybe we see ourselves as a remnant, but God doesn't see us as a remnant. Whenever the children of Israel over in Isaiah, Bible says that the remnant, or that was left, a small portion of that is left of Israel, the remnant of Israel, was what was going to save Israel whenever they were going to be attacked by Syria or Assyria. Okay? It was that small discarded group, that small number of people that was going to be the salvation, if you will, or going to be the ones that keeps Israel from being extinct, keeps Israel from being a thing of history or a people of the past. It's that small remnant that God was going to use, and we see the great nation that Israel has become. Now, I ain't saying that they're the greatest nation that there is, but they are still God's chosen people. And it just goes to show, even if it's just a small group of people, God does not turn His back on His people. Right. God makes sure that He uses His people, and that for, as we studied in Sunday school, that for His honor, for His glory. Okay? So don't let people try to discourage you. Don't let Satan discourage us whenever it's just a handful or whenever it's just a few people. Listen, I know that whenever we first came here, that it seems like the number of people here, it grew rapidly. And I understand that. That's great. There's a new preacher in town, so hey, we all going to go to church. All right? And after a while, the honeymoon wears off. I know we had the coronavirus hit town and things of that nature, and that's keeping some people from attending church, and I understand that. But don't let the smaller number, don't let the remnant of the church be a discouragement to you. Let it be something other that will lift us up. Look at the way that God used Israel, the remnant of Israel. Saved the entire nation. Listen, God can use just that little bit that's here at Sand Hill. God can use just them few people. Those people, if they're just willing and just ready and obedient to do what God says do, God can use a small remnant to do great things. He saved an entire nation with just a remnant. He can do the same thing here today. He can do the same thing in this community with just a remnant, with just that's left over. And don't let people tell you that, that ain't working out, just throw it away. That's just left over from a job that we did. How many times, Brother Kendall, have y'all done a job and there was material left over and you brought it home or you brought it back to the shop and you used it for something other else? It may have been a remnant from one job, but it would still have some use to it somewhere else. I know you probably done the same thing. Hey, I've done the same thing before. You know, there's a remnant that takes place, or there's a remnant, and just because it may be a remnant of this job does not mean that it does not have value for this job. God's still got a purpose and still got a use, even for those that are here today. But don't let the remnant aspect, don't let the little bit aspect, don't let the idea that the remnant has no value or no use, because it has great value and it has much use in the hands of God. Okay? And I know that ain't preaching and that ain't teaching really. That's just what the Lord put on my heart this week about thinking about remnants and how God can use remnants to do His will, to accomplish His will.
That's right.
You know, I'm glad to be a remnant.
That's right.
I'm glad to be a remnant. Glad to be what's left over. And that God can still use me
That's right.
for His purpose and His honor and His glory.